lawyer, I can tell you that. All right, now, this is what I want to start with. We are talking about dating with a purpose. Number one, and I originally directed this towards single men, and since I became a lifestyle channel, I do have a lot of female followers. I think I have about 14 or 15,000 female followers. It's much smaller out of the 136,000, but a lot of times women are quite communicative and write me quite a lot. So I can't ignore people that are faithful subscribers. So what seemed like I was going in just a direction for men, I want to be able to do videos for men and women and people and just whoever could watch. I don't care if it's a grandmom or a mom or a widow or a widower or a 17-year-old guy. All right, single men, single women. Make a living list. This is number one. I'm going to give you a bunch of points. Make a living list of what you want in a partner. Men, make a list of what you want in a woman. Ladies, make a list of what you want in a man. And I say this because then you will know her or him when you see them. You will spot them. No one's going to take you by surprise. For instance, let me just see. Pull out the money clip. All right, $100 bill. Now check this out. Apparently, the new $100 bills don't look like the $100 bills of the past. Apparently, there's about 20 different security devices in this, okay? Everything from colors to codes to, like when you hold it up to the light, there's some kind of electronic strip in there, and there's holograms and watermarks and things like when you hold it up to a certain light, certain images appear. And what happens is, oh, that's really trippy, that blue stripe right there. Like when I don't know if you can see that, how it's moving. Whoa, that's wild. Oh, and even that little Liberty Bell there, look at that. It appears and then disappears. There's so many mechanisms, security mechanisms. And what the FBI does when they are studying counterfeiting, they take the real thing and they study it under microscopes. They know it so well that when they encounter a counterfeit, they almost instinctively go, counterfeit. They could be just counting money, have a stack of 100s, and just stop and say, that's a counterfeit, because they know the real thing really well. They know it. It's instinctive. They've studied it nonstop. They know every square millimeter of this. Now, you are looking for a woman. You make a living list, which means that list is, you can add to it, breathe and document. So is your list of your potential mate. That way, and you're going to go over that list, and you know what you want. It's not going to change. Your list is not going to change because you saw a movie with, just pick some actress or actor, just because you saw this person and said, I would love to mate her or him. And then all of a sudden the list changes. I'm not talking about that kind of thing. I'm talking about character things. For instance, this is a list that I have made, and I wrote it down. This is important. Write down the list of what you want in a mate. That's super important. Here's my list. I'll give you an example. Christian, intelligent, gracious, well-spoken, pretty. Notice pretty, because pretty is in the eye of the beholder. Some people might say they want someone who's hot. Like, what is hot? Like, what does that mean? Beauty is in the eye of the beholder, which means if you think that he or she is pretty or handsome, that's really that's all that matters, okay? The whole concept of, I'm not a huge fan of that, like, well, she's a 7 and he's a 6, or I only date 8s, 9s, and 10s, and this kind of stuff. I just think that's kind of crazy. Cat is talking to me right now. What's the matter? Okay, good boy. Daddy's on the air right now, okay? I'll be with you in a little while. one of the cats that I rescued. What was I talking about? Oh, going down the list. And not given to pop culture, family-oriented, trim. Does she have to be jacked? That doesn't matter to me. I like trim. Trim usually means that they fit in their clothes well and that they can do most exercises and walk a couple flights of stairs and, and that kind of thing. Dress is smart. A woman that is modest and not bursting out all over the place. And I like a woman that makes eye contact with me. That's real important to me. So this is a list that I made. And since it's a living list, I mean, I can add to it. I'm not going to really take away anything from there. Those are kind of like, I don't want to say deal breakers, but those are the things that are important to me. And those are things that transcend time. For instance, being well-spoken. In 20 years, my wife, future wife, if she's well-spoken now, she's going to be well-spoken then. Age does not take away from being well-spoken. Family-oriented. Unless something changes, most people that are currently family-oriented stay that way. Christian, I want a woman of faith. That's just my choice personally. Intelligent, gracious, pretty. Now, pretty, again, it's on that sliding scale. Some people want hot. For me, that might be just pretty might be my word for hot. So there's a lot of, someone says, oh man, she was smoking. Okay, that could mean she's pretty, right? It only matters to you if she's attractive or if he is attractive. It doesn't matter to anyone else. You're the only one who has to be moved, impressed, or inspired. Okay? So that's the list of what you need to do. Number one, you identify what you want. Right here. That way, when it appears in front of you, you know it. The counterfeits are not going to impress you. Now okay. Being that the list is living and breathing, it is not, it's not rigid. It has only a couple deal breakers in it, but it's not filled with deal breakers. For instance, if I meet a woman who is not perfectly trim, but has all the other things, there's the concept of trade-offs. Would I trade off the trim thing? I could. I've met women who might have been a size bigger than what I ideally would like and thought that they were beautiful and gracious and wonderful. But you have to decide what things are deal breakers. For instance, I want a woman that is Christian. Deal breaker. I will not date a woman of another faith. Will not. I will not date an atheist. I will not date an agnostic. And when I say date with a purpose, and that purpose is to establish something permanent and lifelong. And in a world of, here we go, disposable lighter, okay? When this is done, I throw it out. I get rid of it. Why? Because it's no longer useful to me. And that's the way relationships are now. Let's see, what else do I have that might be like that? What kind of pen do I have in my pocket? This is this is one of my things that I had, like in third grade, the 4-color pen. But you don't get refills for these. When this ink runs out, it goes. It's no longer of use to me. The problem is that the disposability of things has permeated into the relationship world. We get rid of things when they inconvenience us, when something goes wrong. For instance, I have a 4-color pen. I use probably the black and the blue more than any other colors. Okay? Sometimes the black runs out. All right? And then I go to the blue. I don't have a lot of use for the red except for underlining in my reading, and I rarely ever use the green. And I color code when I read books, I take notes and I color code. But I won't keep it in my pocket if like at least 2 of the 4 colors run out. It goes. So what if you are with someone who's a lifelong companion and they gain weight? What if they are no longer intelligent? What if they are no longer pretty? What if they start watching TV more? What if, like just fill in the blank of all those things. Think about the deal breakers. What things are negotiable? What things are deal breakers? What things will you not live with? I'm not going to live with a woman who just watches excessive TV. Now, does that mean I'm not going to have a TV in my house? I haven't watched TV in 3 years. It's not part of my life. My entertainment is watching a video here and there on YouTube and people and reading. And you don't see it, but I have a stack of books here, things that I'm just finishing up for my summer reading. The items can flow in and out, or the volume can be turned. Each item has like a volume knob on it. And the volume can be turned up or down, or the items can slide in and out. It should not be reactionary. The list that you made should not be reactionary. Were you ever on a dating site and a person says, I don't want someone who drinks a lot? Well, that's an interesting thing to say in a profile on a dating site. What you're really telling me is that your last husband was a drunk or your last girlfriend was a drunk. And you can tell when people are reacting. And to me, I'm not interested in reacting to past relationships. That's why I always tell people when you go through a breakup, you need to have a period to get you back. Don't work to get the other person back. Never, never, never. If it didn't work out then, it ain't going to work out now. The reality is this, is that if you set your sights on things that are timeless and ageless, for instance, the man and woman who've been married 50 years, who have gnarly, old, wrinkled hands and their faces are old, and he looks at her and says, you are still the beautiful woman that I met 60 years ago. Now, you look at them and you see an old lady with wrinkles and gray hair. You look at him and you see a man kind of hunched over a little bit and maybe bald, lost all his hair, wrinkled, sunken in eyes. And she pats him on the cheek and says, you're that handsome young sailor that I met back in San Diego, or, like whatever. It's interesting because what happens is, and that's not love being blind, that's also what commitment does. And they're joyful with each other. So that's why I say your list should be things that are timeless and ageless. Things that age and time will not affect your opinion. For instance, I will never forget, my ex-wife said to me once, she says, you're not the man I married. And I'm like, really? Okay. And that bothered me for the longest time. Now, I've been divorced for, going on 16 years now. That bothered me for the longest time. I'm no longer bothered by any of this stuff. This stuff is like way in the past. And I'm just sharing with you some of the things that bothered me during that time. And I thought to myself, well, thank God I'm not that man, because I've grown. I'm better because I've always been on a path of improvement. There might have been some little potholes in the road to development, but the reality is everybody is growing. And if people are intellectually honest with one another, there's no couple that is the same at all. At all. And many times women will marry an ideal, and they want that man to stay a certain way, or they want him to change, whatever. What do they say? Most women, women marry a, how does it go? Women marry a man hoping he will change. Men marry a woman hoping that she won't change. I always thought that was an interesting kind of thing. There's a thing called entropy. You know what entropy is? Entropy is like if I took a top, remember, a top that spins? Entropy is things that are spinning eventually slow down, start to wobble, and then stop. Entropy is if I took something that was like red hot, glowing red, put it down, eventually that glow goes away, like you can't touch it, but the heat goes away and it becomes cold. That's entropy, things slowing down. What happens in marriages, if you don't keep the top spinning, if you don't keep applying heat to the piece of iron, it will no longer glow red, it will no longer be spinning at the same RPMs. Entropy takes place in a relationship, in a marriage. So one of the things you have to look for in a potential mate on that list is, are they willing to grow? Or are they like, well, I just want you to love me for who I am? Okay, I get that, because that's who you end up marrying, that's who you end up spending the rest of your life with, is who that person is. But don't you want them to grow? I tell men all the time, she doesn't care how much you bench press. She does not care how much you bench press. She doesn't care how much you go to the gym. She doesn't care how much you work out. What she cares about is that you work out, that you're taking care of yourself. And I would imagine the door swings in the other direction. I know there's guys that are saying, well, who cares what a woman thinks? Okay, then this is not the channel for you. You can go to the other channels where they can teach you to live selfishly, because life is wonderful. All right, so let's say you become that excellent person. I've been telling you to pursue excellence. Let's say you got the perfect body. You got the fat wallet. They got the hundreds all over the place. You're driving the nice cars, but you have no one to share it with. Believe me, you will be lonely. So yes, it's nice to think about other people. When I think about my wealth and think about growing, my thoughts are, who can I share it with? That's what I want to do. When I think about making more money, I think about creating a wealth for my family, being able to help my children out when they're buying a car, or sending them somewhere, or providing them with comfort and safety and so forth, with providing for my wife or wife-to-be, whoever. As you know, I'm single now, and I have, within the past year, made the decision after 16 years of being divorced, and I don't even want to say divorced anymore. I'm single. I was divorced for the first 5 years. After that, I just started saying I'm single. But for those of you who might have thought that I was never married and don't have any kids or whatever, no, I was married and I have 3 children. And my oldest child, my daughter, just turned 23 yesterday. So that's kind of cool. So my kids are 23, 20, and 16. A girl, 2 boys. And some of you have met my middle son in videos and so forth. So, but I am a single guy, and what am I looking for? I've achieved everything I've ever wanted in life. What else could I possibly want? I have freedom. I can go where I want. I can pretty much do what I want when I want. Travel. I have unlimited numbers of women that want to spend time with me. Here I am on a Friday night. I'm going to be doing a broadcast with Steve the Dean Williams over on the Redman Group channel after this broadcast. And, he says, why are you alone on a Friday night? And I said, because I can. I can be. Now, typically in my life, Saturday night was always date night. But man, do I love my solitude and my free time. So later on tonight, I'm going to fire up a cigar and probably drink some matcha tea, which I have right here, and sit outside because it's less humid. And I no longer have to look for women. Women present themselves to me all the time. So finding women is not a problem. And what I did was I pursued excellence. People say, man, you got game. I don't even know what game is. I don't even know what game is. I know that when I work out, this looks good. I know when I keep myself groomed and clean, and I'm friendly and edgy and funny and smile with people, it works all the time. So I've never, ever, ever thought to myself, gee, I wish I had a woman in my life. I can't imagine not having women in my life. What I want now is one woman in my life. And that's what I'm open to in the past year, that I've come to that conclusion that, and it's got nothing to do with growing old alone or anything like that, because I do love being alone. And I know my next relationship will be different. And I think my next relationship will be a marriage. That's what I think. So a lot of what I'm talking to you about tonight, dating with a purpose, is what I'm experiencing personally and also how I've coached people over the years. So let's go with number 3. We finished up number 2 by saying your list, the items on your list should never be reactionary, as in the opposite of a bad relationship that you had. Now, number 3, it is not hypocritical. Your list is not hypocritical, as in you want a woman who is in shape, but you are not. For instance, if you're a fat slob, but you say, man, I want an 8, I want a 9, I want a 10. Dude, are you at 8, 9, or 10 when you look in the mirror? I remember one time I used to some actually had a lot of internal conviction. I still slip up every now and then, but I'm really trying to talk like a man, an honorable man, and I want to talk as if my daughter is sitting right here with me. I don't, and for a couple years, I let my language just go all over the place. And but I remember a couple years ago when it was about a couple years ago, I did a video where I said something, and I wish I could rewind the tape. I wish I could actually take back 30%, 1/3 of the videos that I've made and redo the language or bleep out some of the stuff, because I'm really trying to hold back on that. But allow me the freedom to say this just once, and I won't do any more cursing for the rest of the show tonight. But I asked the question, would you fuck you? When you look in a mirror, can you imagine someone looking at you and say, wow, I'd like to, him or her. Now that's the last curse I'll do for the night. But your list is a bunch of ideals, isn't it? It's a bunch of things that you are not. It's a bunch of things that you are not. If you are not willing to be the things that you expect in a mate, it's hypocritical. What you don't want is the female version of you. You want a complementary person. For instance, I love cooking, but I hate cleaning. If I meet a woman who loves cooking and hates cleaning, we are in trouble, man. She's going to have to learn how to clean, or already know how to clean. I just hate it. I hate cleaning. I do. I don't mind doing laundry. I don't mind ironing. But I don't want to fold everything. I'm just not interested in folding all the other stuff. But when it comes to shirts and anything that needs to be pressed, I'll do that. For me, that's zen, believe it or not. I put on my headset and I listen to videos while I'm ironing. And before you know it, I've listened to an entire motivational video for 30 minutes and I just iron 10 shirts. Boom, just like that. It's effortless. Whereas I know some women that would be like, oh my God, ironing, what a drag. That's the worst thing. You know, for me, I hate folding clothes. Can't stand it. I can't stand it. I like cooking. I hate doing dishes. So relationships have to be complementary. You don't want the female version of you, men, and ladies, you don't want the male version of you. So think complementary. Half of the values they have should be similar values. That's super important. Half should be complementary items, but none should be idealistic. Your list should contain these things. Half should be similar values, the other half should be complementary, but none should be idealistic. So we've seen the memes on Facebook and Instagram showing that like skeleton, a skeleton sitting on a park bench, and the caption would say, "Waiting for the perfect man," or something ridiculous like that. And everyone laughs. But what happens is, how many women do we know that are just like waiting for the perfect guy, and they never end up getting it? And they say, well, I don't want to settle. For many people, the word compromise is a bad word, and they think that's settling. But anyone who's ever been married knows this, that you must compromise. You must compromise. I want to get up in the morning and just be right at it. I want to jump out in life. I jump out of bed, make my coffee. But being married to a woman who didn't like to get up early, that means I had to tiptoe out of the bedroom, go downstairs, not bang any pots and pans. And then when babies came into the picture, you got to be real quiet, because I'm an early riser, as you know. You bang a pot or a pan or the coffee pot in the kitchen or the microwave door, all of a sudden, the baby starts crying, and then guess what? Then you have an angry spouse. So I lived my single life just being loud and obnoxious and doing whatever I want to do. When you're single, think about this. When you're single, you don't close the door when you go to the bathroom, right? Like right now, when I go to the bathroom, if no one's around, guess what I do? The door's open. Just sit, in the bathroom or stand there with the door open. And then when people are around, you close the door. That's a behavior that you have to learn. There are some people that before they leave their bedroom, they make their bed. They can't go down into the kitchen in the morning unless that bed is made. So if you're a messy person or a cluttery person and you marry or end up with someone who's not, there could be some issues. Stupid things like making the bed. Imagine that you're in love with someone, you marry them, you're spending the rest of your life with them, but you get into a fight about making the damn bed. Probably not a good thing, right? So there's compromise. It's not going to kill you to make the bed. So I suggest don't let the word compromise scare you. And get that phrase, I'm not going to settle. I don't want to settle. I know a lot of women, believe me, I've known a lot of women, been with a lot of women, and that whole I don't want to settle thing just has always rubbed me the wrong way. Always. All right, let's go to number 4. Go down your list and determine which ones are intellectual and which ones are emotional in nature. A good balance is 80% intellectual and 20% emotional. But here's the hard part. I want you to share your list with 3 close people. They will see things that you cannot see. Objective eyes, or a second set of eyes, are crucial when picking a mate or dating with a purpose. So here we go. My list is, I want a woman who is Christian, intelligent, gracious, well-spoken, pretty, not given to pop culture, family-oriented, trim, dresses smart, is modest, and makes eye contact. So if I share that list with 3 close people, let's say my brothers my 2 brothers and a good friend of mine, they're going to say, they're going to immediately say, yeah, but I thought you said on this list that you wanted a woman that's, and they're going to see things that you can't. And we have an amazing ability to rationalize things when we get into these trances. My father used to say, people would get into a trance. You start thinking about a woman, you have trance-like thinking, man, don't you? You can't stop thinking about it. Ladies, same thing. You get into a trance, an obsession. I got to actually look up the word trance and see what the actual real definition is. Objective eyes are crucial when dating with a purpose. Number 5, when you encounter a woman, and for the ladies, a man who you've asked out and are getting to know or involved in old school courtship, you consult with those 3. I told you it was going to be hard, didn't I? I told you it was going to be difficult. And you need to listen to them. You're going to spend time in groups, you're going to go on double dates, and you're going to go on social gatherings with her or him involved. Super important, because people who love you are going to give you feedback because they care for you, not because they're trying to break your you-know-whats. All right? Old school courtship. People say, I get a lot of people cursing at me in comments and emailing me, calling me old man. Okay, I admit that. That's fine. And then I see a lot of young people saying, oh, we're rocking it old school. We're doing it old school. When I see someone who's 21 talking to me about old school, I stop them in their tracks and say, look at me. This is old school. If you want old school, talk to somebody who's old. It's super important. But did you hear what I said? This is the part that's going to probably really rub most of you the wrong way. When it comes to dating with a purpose or courtship, you need to share the list with your friends, and they need to see that person in action. That's important. Other people, listen close now. Listen. Other people can see things that you can't. And that's important that you respect their opinions. They are your friends for a reason, right? Okay? But all of a sudden we put up a wall. It's like, oh, you get in that trance. How dare you criticize her or him? It's going to be hard, like I said. It's going to be difficult. So I really want you to share those things with your friends and look for objectivity. Number 6, you will not always spend time alone. Dating and courtship is not all about Netflix and chilling. You need to have activities of cooperation, cooking, canoeing, not kayaking, canoeing. Because I feel that I've done both, and I feel with canoeing, you need 2 people that are really, really, really cooperating to get that canoe to go in the same direction. It's a little easier on a kayak, but canoes really need teamwork. Go out dancing together. Now, does that mean you have to, I'm not talking about just grooving in a club kind of thing. Maybe something where there's a little bit of cooperation, where your feet have to be in certain places, your arms have to be in certain places, you're doing certain things, you're spinning her around. Ladies, you're getting spun around. You're making sure your feet aren't getting stepped on. That's a dance. Life is compared to a dance. If you are stepping on each other's toes and things, and it's just a big wreck of a night, that's kind of a picture of life and marriage and lifelong companionship. C.S. Lewis, my favorite author of all time, just read anything. Just get the complete, you know what? Do me a favor, get the complete works of C.S. Lewis, and you're going to love it. You'll get something out of it. Doesn't matter who you are or where you're from, you will love C.S. Lewis. But he compares relationships to a dance. People having certain moves and then the other person responding to those moves. Not in a knee-jerk kind of way, but in a way that's complementary. You know, in tango, how many people here have ever done tango? Okay, it's a hard dance, isn't it? A lot of people say, oh, I'm going to take salsa lessons. You don't know what dancing is until you try tango. The first thing they teach you, the first thing that they teach you in tango is this: the man is the frame. He's the frame. I've got a picture right here. You guys are familiar with this, right? The man is the frame. The woman is the painting that fills that frame. So in the tango, everything that the man does in the dance, just look up tango. Just go on YouTube and just look up tango dance and watch the dance. The man stands a certain way and the woman fills that space. He moves a certain way and then she fills that space. How appropriate was C.S. Lewis calling relationships a dance. So you need to have activities of cooperation, cooking, canoeing, dancing. Check this out. Hosting a party together. Now, they might seem simple, but these simple things can actually reveal a lot about a person. Hosting a party together. You're making the food. You're organizing the food. You're taking people's coats. You're showing them where the bathroom is. You're showing them where the drinks are. You're hosting the party. As people leave, well, you're greeting them as well. You're introducing them. You're mingling with them. You're not staying in one corner. You are working together as a team. Let's say you have 20 people over for a dinner party, or just kind of like you have music and snacks and that kind of thing. And what happens is you both have to make those 20 people feel at home. You're working on one thing, and that is to make people feel good. Having a party is not an intellectual exercise. Having a party is a very big emotional exercise. Can you make people feel good together? Or do you embarrass each other? Or do you embarrass that person in front of the guests? Hosting a party together will reveal more about your relationship than any other activity, because it's on display for others to see. And your friends and her friends, your friends will talk to you the next day, her friends will talk to her the next day. And what happens is that you get feedback from the outside. Wow, you guys really work well together. You complement each other well. That's super important. People will tell you this, that the way, when a woman is with her man, many people will say to the man, wow, do you see the way she looks at you? And other people can pick up on that. They can pick up on how she looks at you. Ladies, does your man exhibit manners with you? Because your friends are going to talk to you the next day, aren't they? And they're going to say, wow, he was a gentleman. Or they're going to say, he was a real jerk, the way he treated you. You better run, girl. All right. So we're talking about cooperating on a small scale to see how you work together. It's very practical, as your life with each other is going to be about not maintaining frame, not gaming your wife, gaming your husband. Forget all of that language. Forget it. It's practical. Your life with each other is about cooperation and complimenting each other. Not giving compliments, but I mean complimenting each other's behavior and style. And you help each other out in that way. And the key is, dating with a purpose also lets other people know about it. Number 7. And I originally wrote this for men, but like I said, because I have female followers as well, I would call this unisex advice. Does she take direction well? Does she respond to your lead as you communicate, follow my lead? Gentlemen, if you want her to follow you, and I've said, those words come out of my mouth. I've said that to my girl, follow my lead. Follow my lead. In a loving way, not like in a dictator kind of way. Follow my lead. And every time she follows your lead, and the results, the consequences are something good happens. She trusts you a little bit more. And men, every time she follows you and supports you and honors you, you trust her a little bit more. Can you imagine years of providing leadership in your relationship, in your family, and the trust that builds? It can take 5 years, 10 years for trust to build, but one stupid activity, one dumb mistake to bring it all down to nothing. So it's important to keep building trust. Keep building trust. Does she take direction well? Does she respond to your lead as you communicate, follow my lead? Do you lovingly retract and apologize if you screw up? Now, you're going to find a million videos on YouTube that will tell men that women love assholes, women love jerks. Maybe that edgy guy might win a round or two, but he's not going to win the fight. He might win the skirmish. He might be able to pick up a woman and have a little sexual activity in the car, or have a sexy weekend with a woman, and vice versa. Okay? But overall, the long-term strategy, women do not like jerks or assholes in the long run. They do not. Don't believe the guys that tell you that. Actually, the ones that preach that are the true assholes and the true jerks. And I can guarantee you this, they're not getting anything. Okay? You know that to be true. Many of you don't want to believe that. You want to believe that the men who teach you about women and relationships and the nature of women, and they use scientific terms and deep psychological terms. You want to think that they're right, don't you? But you know that they're wrong. Do you lovingly retract and apologize if you screw up? That goes for men and women. Do you consider the other person's input and intellect if she comes up with a different solution than yours? Dang. You know, that's practiced in courtship, in the exploration phase of a relationship. As you are exploring and experiencing each other, what if they come up with another solution that's different than yours? Boy, how important. How important will that be? Do you consider their input and intellect if they come up with a different solution than yours? Do you lovingly retract and apologize if you screw up? There are people on YouTube right now, dating coaches, game teachers, who would tell you, never apologize, never. There's wisdom will tell you when it's time to apologize, when it's right to apologize. Like in the news, never, when it comes to like, you're getting hounded by the media, never apologize for anything when it comes to the media. But in your relationship with a person that you love and that loves you, an apology can go real far. I did a video on several months ago, I guess it was back in May, you might have seen this, where I said, if you win an argument with your parents or with your spouse, what did you really win? Okay? Damn, you're right. You're right. You got them. You showed them. You schooled them. Yay. Sometimes being right means keeping your mouth shut, not trying to prove that you're right. And if you're wrong, can you retract and apologize? I remember as a kid, my dad made me, I'm trying to think who it was. He made me apologize to somebody, and I had to say these words. I'm sorry for the trouble that I caused you, and it won't happen again. And I was a little kid. I think I was maybe like 8. This was in the 60s. Can you imagine saying that to somebody? I'm sorry for the trouble I caused you, and it won't happen again. Not only does it blow away the recipient, because it disarms them, but it also changes you when you can say, I've been wrong. I don't want you to have a false apology. Don't admit you're wrong if you're not wrong. Never admit you're wrong to please anyone else. That's ridiculous. Somebody will eventually accuse me of teaching that, but that's not the case. Can you say to somebody, I'm sorry for the trouble that I caused you, and it won't happen again? That's disarming for everybody. It makes everybody intellectually and emotionally honest. Dating with a purpose, number 8. Do you come across to others, as a couple, as a well-oiled machine? Seamlessly creating a consistent optic, an example of cooperation, love, and leadership as a man. Because if you can't lead your family, you can't lead anything. Or can you lead anything? Can you lead anything at all if you can't lead your family? And that leadership starts in courtship. It starts in the exploration phase while you're dating, getting to know one another. And I think that's super important. There's no such thing as a bad dog, but a bad trainer, right? No such thing as a bad dog. You can take a dog that just is a total misbehaving jerk, and if it's trained right, it'll be okay. All right? Your family and your relationships are the same way. As a leader, man, and I'm speaking to the men, as a leader, people follow your lead. That's important. Are you confident enough and man enough to be able to say to your woman or wife-to-be or the woman that you're dating, follow my lead? It's tough. I would say don't even go into a relationship until you can be confident in being able to say that. Follow my lead. Does she project an example of gracious servitude to your leadership? Or does she seem resistant? This is where the 3 friends come in. Is she resistant to your leadership? Is she gracious? When you and her are with other people, is it an example? Does she make you look better? Or does she make you look weak? Ladies, does he make you look more beautiful and honor you in front of people? Do other women think in their heads, man, I wish I had a husband like that, or I wish my man treated me like that? Men, do other people say to you, God, the way she looks at you, dude, holy cow, I wish my wife looked at me the same way she looks at you? Super important. That's why your dating with a purpose can't be private. It needs to be public. It needs to be public. You need the optics of cooperation, love, and leadership, and other people need to see it. And number 9, determine how well you fight. Do you end your day angry or frustrated during a conflict that you will have, because you will have conflicts? Observe her volume, her physical reactions, her emotions, and all the tentacles that will ensnare you. Fighting is not a deal breaker. If you are dating somebody and you get into a fight, fighting is not the deal breaker, ever. And those of you that have been married and in long-term relationships, you know this to be true, because the next thing I'm going to say, it's not fighting that's the deal breaker. It's how you fight. Do you fight well? Do you get dirty when you fight? Do you use language that, I heard a cop say once, he was talking about his gun, and he was talking about how hesitant he is to pull his gun in a situation. And he said, he goes, once you pull the trigger, you can never call that bullet back. You better be sure. And I say words are the same thing. Once words leave your mouth to her, you can't take them back. I think women are more affected by our words than we are affected by their words. I do. You might say something in a rage, something stupid, and no matter how much you apologize, she's always going to remind you of it. That's why you got to use your head. Think about this. I'm sorry for the trouble that I caused you, and I won't do it again. I'm sorry for using those words, and I won't do it again. Women, you can put a woman into grief by your words. A man can be put into grief by, ladies, by your action. Men aren't as affected by your words as you are affected by his words. He will be more mad at what you do. You will be more mad at what he says. So, does she weaponize your past against you? Do you weaponize each other's pasts against each other? Past relationships, sexual, divorces, bad decisions. Do you use that information against each other? See what I'm saying? Fighting is not the deal breaker. It's how you fight. That's the deal breaker. And finally, the last thing. In dating with a purpose, what works and what doesn't. And I hope you learned something tonight. All of this happens during courtship, or what I call the consideration phase, exploration phase of a relationship. If you want to have a lifelong mate, a companion, a wife, a husband, a partner in joy, a sojourner in the journey, this segment of the relationship, this is where all the check engine lights go off. And this is where people get in trouble. They ignore the check engine lights when they go off. And what did we start at? We started all the way at the bottom with that living and breathing list of what you want and what you don't want, and what the deal breakers were, and what was emotional, what was intellectual, what was flexible. So the key point during the exploration and consideration phase that we used to, years ago, it was called courtship. The objectivity that you need during that period is not going to come from you. You hear me? The objectivity that you need during this exploration and consideration phase, I'm not talking about just like socially dating someone, just casually going. I'm talking about when you are dating with a purpose. The objectivity that you need during this time is going to come from other people, and that's really hard to hear, especially in the Netflix and chill generation where you just stay behind closed doors and your weekends are just like a honeymoon, that no one sees you. You're not operating in groups, parties, you're not cooperating socially. People can't see that. The best feedback you're going to get is going to come from 3 people in your life, the 3 closest people in your life. And if you're confused with that, then you certainly need a coach. I wouldn't say a psychotherapist or a counselor. I would say a coach, someone that helps you recognize those things, someone like myself. If you want to know more about that stuff, you can always email me, gb@georgebruno.com, and I'll put the information. I'm going to add all the elements to this video later tonight. I hope you got something out of it. And date with a purpose. You'll be happy and content. Thanks for watching.